Assalamualaikum, I'm Ras Adiba Radzi. Thanks for tuning in to 7Edition. The headlines. The US returns some 236 million ringgit to Malaysia. No tint limit for vehicle rear windows and windshield under new regulation. Pipes burst, leaving thousands high and dry. Hello, it's good to see you again. Transport Minister Anthony Loke Siew Fook today announced that motorists can now tint their rear windshields and passenger windows as dark as they want under new regulations, effective tomorrow. The Road Transport Department, JPJ, will allow zero visible light transmission, VLT, for rear side windows and rear windshield. The current limit for the front windscreen and front side windows, however, will remain.
The Transport Minister said the decision was made for better enforcement, better regulation and to be in accordance with international standards. The changes were also in response to demands from motorists who want darker windows to protect their car upholstery as well as to solve issues on the ground.
We know there is a lot of practical problem for many cars, especially for imported cars. Some imported cars, such as those from Japan, most of their cars they have tinted glass behind, at the back, and at the passenger's seat. So when they come in, any imported cars, they have to go for car inspection, right? Imported cars car inspection. Yeah. They go to car inspection. The moment they go to Puspakong, they will fail. So that's what's happening on the ground. So we want to do away with all this, make it simple for car owners, so they can pass the inspection. And along with our regulation, UN 43.
He added that the ruling only involves private vehicles, including those used for e-hailing services. It is also possible for motorists to have all windows fully tinted for security and health reasons, but permission is needed to do so. Motorists applying for health reasons are exempt from service charges, while those who want fully tinted windows under security reasons can apply with a 50 ringgit service fee. And if their application is approved, they would be charged 5,000 ringgit for a permit to have all their car windows fully tinted. Loke also warned that his ministry will not compromise on regulations for tinting windows at the front of the vehicle. JPJ enforcement officers will start their checks on vehicles under the new regulations in 3 months.
Now, to explain further the details of the new policy for tinted vehicle windows, one of our producers, Shakur Aziz, breaks it down.
According to the existing policy, the minimum visible light transmission or VLT rate for the front windscreen is at 70%. The limit for the front passenger side windows remain at 50%, while the rear windows must be at least 30%. However, with the new policy, which takes effect tomorrow, there will be no more VLT limitations for the back and the rear windscreen of a vehicle. They can be darkened even more according to one's desire. However, it is important to note that private vehicle owners may only tint their non-driver windows beyond the limits as long as their vehicles have side mirrors, and ensure that the VLT limits for the front windscreen and the front passenger side windows remain at 70% and 50% respectively.
The government has received some $57 million or over 236 million ringgit from the US, the first installment of funds recovered by the Department of Justice DOJ. The sum is part of a total of $322 million from the sale of assets linked to money embezzled from 1MDB. The Attorney General said the money was transferred into the 1MDB asset recovery account, a segregated trust account opened specifically for this purpose.
In a statement today, Thomas said this sum was forfeited from Red Granite Pictures, a US-based film production company linked to former Prime Minister Datuk Sri Najib and his stepson Riza Aziz. Thomas said this arose from a 248.9 million ringgit settlement recorded before the Court of California with a deduction of about $3 million made to reimburse costs incurred by the DOJ and the Federal Bureau of Investigation (FBI) in investigating, seizing, litigating and securing settlement for the Red Granite funds. Also included in this deduction were the costs incurred by the DOJ and FBI in investigating, seizing and maintaining the super yacht Equanimity for 9 months. Once owned by fugitive financier Joe Low, it was reported that Equanimity was bought for 1.42 billion ringgit using funds linked to 1MDB. He said that the DOJ is in the process of remitting a further sum of 576.5 million ringgit, which is the result of the sale of Joe Low's interest in Park Lane Hotel in Manhattan. Thomas said Malaysia has recovered 1.3 billion ringgit worth of 1MDB assets since investigations into 1MDB effectively began after the 14th general election in May 2018. He said that a separate sum of 152.2 million ringgit of funds traceable to 1MDB has been ordered by the Singapore courts to be repatriated, and that 45.7 million ringgit was credited into 1MDB asset recovery account between September last year to March this year. Thomas said Malaysia expresses gratitude to the US and Singapore while noting that 1MDB's asset recovery efforts across the globe are still ongoing, and Malaysia is optimistic of recovering further monies in the coming months.
Former Prime Minister Datuk Sri Najib Tun Razak failed in his bid to disqualify former Federal Court Judge Datuk Sri Gopal Sri Ram as lead prosecutor involving the One Malaysia Development Berhad 1MDB cases. The Court of Appeal's 3-member bench led by Justice Datuk Zabaria Muhammad Yusof unanimously ruled today that the former Premier's appeal against the High Court decision has no merit. Justice Datuk Zabaria said the panel, which included Justices Datuk Rutzaria Bujang and Datuk Lau Bilan, disagreed that Datuk Sri Najib would be deprived of a fair trial if Datuk Sri Gopal continues to act as prosecutor in this case. Datuk Sri Najib was appealing against the High Court's decision on March 1st this year to dismiss his application to disqualify Datuk Sri Gopal as the Senior Deputy Public Prosecutor. The Pekan MP is facing 4 counts under the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission Act and 21 counts of money laundering involving 1MDB funds amounting to 2.28 billion ringgit. The trial will run from August 19th to November 14th. Meanwhile, former Goldman Sachs banker Roger Ng pleaded not guilty to criminal charges linked to the 1MDB scandal in a New York court Monday, just hours after he was extradited to the US. The 51-year-old former managing director at the bank was charged in both Malaysia and the US of the 1MDB fraud, with a US indictment against him includes charges of conspiracy to commit bribery and conspiracy to commit money laundering. Ng's attorney, Mark Agnifilo, said there were no active plea negotiations and that his client would consider all options after a judge said the two sides were in plea talks. He was granted bail after paying $1 million in cash for a $20 million bond. Ng faces home detention with electronic monitoring. Attorney General Tommy Thomas said Ng's return to the US is a temporary surrender as he would be brought back to Malaysia to face charges after US prosecutors have completed their case. Huge sums of public money were stolen from State Fund 1MDB and used to amass a trove of personal riches in a scheme allegedly overseen by former Premier Datuk Sri Najib. Goldman's role is under scrutiny because the Wall Street Bank helped arrange $6.5 billion in bonds for 1MDB. Malaysian authorities accused former employees in some of the bank's subsidiaries of stealing $2.7 billion in the process, and investigators believe cash was laundered through the US financial system. In Kedah, a rubber tapper and a cook were charged at the Alor Magistrates Court today with distributing a total of 89 kilograms of ganja 2 weeks ago. The duo alleged to have committed the offence in the compound of the Langgar police station in Kota Star. However, no plea was recorded from the accused Muhammad Zulkifli Awangkeci, aged 31, and 32-year-old Bibi Zaida Abu Bakar. The two acknowledged they understood the charge when it was read out to them before Magistrate Nur Shahida Abdul Rahim. They are being charged under Section 39B of the Dangerous Drugs Act, which carries the death sentence upon conviction. The court fixed July 11th for re-mention of the case. The The Customs Department foiled an attempt to smuggle in drugs through a courier service in Miri, Sarawak yesterday. This was after the arrest of a man believed to be a drug pusher just as he was leaving a local Post Laju outlet after collecting a parcel at 9:45 a.m. According to State Customs Director Datuk Sharifah Halimah Tuanku Taha, the parcel was found to contain 24,594 ecstasy pills, which were declared as chocolate candy. The package was addressed to a female recipient in Desa Seri Pujut. Preliminary investigation revealed that the house at the address was inhabited by various tenants who used it as a drug packaging and distributing centre for Sarawak and Brunei Darul Salam. Authorities are tracking down several individuals involved in the syndicate. Apart from the ecstasy, authorities also found 30 packets of ketamine, weighing about 27 grams in the man's car. The case is being investigated under the Dangerous Drugs Act.
Dr. Xavier said that the pipes were displaced and dislocated at several spots when a new retaining wall constructed by WCE failed and caused soil movement that in turn displaced the pipes. In a statement today, the minister said that Air Selangor only realised the problem was more severe than anticipated when it was in the midst of repairing the damaged pipes. Restoration works by Air Selangor also hit a snag when one of the pipes that had already been fixed sprang a new leak. Water supply has been disrupted since Sunday, and indications are that consumers may have to wait a while longer before the supply is restored. The minister urged all affected consumers to be patient. This round of water disruption comes just over a week after the scheduled water cut in several areas in the Klang Valley to accommodate upgrading work at the Sungai Selangor Phase 2 water treatment plant.
Water, Land and Natural Resources Minister Dr. Xavier Jayakumar said today that Pengurusan Air Selangor Sdn Bhd would have to assess the damage before repair works could resume. This following 3 pipes bursting near the West Coast Highway WCE construction site, which has left thousands of residents in the Klang district high and dry.
Were displaced and dislocated at several spots when a new retaining wall constructed by WCE failed and caused soil movement that in turn displaced the pipes. In a statement today, the minister said that Air Selangor only realised the problem was more severe than anticipated when it was in the midst of repairing the damaged pipes. Restoration works by Air Selangor also hit a snag when one of the pipes that had already been fixed sprang a new leak. Water supply has been disrupted since Sunday, and indications are that consumers may have to wait a while longer before the supply is restored. The minister urged all affected consumers to be patient. This round of water disruption comes just over a week after the scheduled water cut in several areas in the Klang Valley to accommodate upgrading work at the Sungai Selangor Phase 2 water treatment plant.
The Penang Education Department has begun a probe into yesterday's science laboratory incident at Sekolah Menengah Kebangsaan Bayan Lepas, which left 12 students with breathing difficulties. In a statement today, the Education Ministry said that standard operating procedures are already in place for schools for conducting science experiments in laboratories. And so the investigation will look into what went wrong. It was reported that the laboratory had insufficient ventilation, which caused the gas from the heated iodine to build up in the room. The affected students were given treatment, and the Fire and Rescue Department has aired out the lab since then. In Kelantan, a woman and her 2 young children were killed when the motorcycle they were riding was struck by a speeding car laden with ketum leaves in Tanah Merah today. The trio suffered severe injuries and died on the spot in the 7:30 a.m. accident.
The deceased were identified as 26-year-old housewife Nur Zurita Shah Kadir and her children who were riding pillion, 5-year-old Muhammad Adam Mukriz Adnan and Siti Husna Kaisara, aged 4. The collision at kilometre 77 of Jalan Kota Baru Machang Jelly occurred as Nur Zurita was sending Muhammad Adam to his kindergarten in Kampung Nibong. The driver of the car, a 25-year-old Thai national, is believed to have escaped unhurt. He was believed to be speeding when he lost control of the vehicle, which veered into the opposite lane and collided head-on with the motorcycle. The Thai man was taken into police custody following the accident.
Siasatan yang kita ambil daripada urin, itu berarti suspek yang memandu kenderaan motorkarnya positif dadah methamphetamine. Dan siasatan juga di tempat kejadian kita menemui di dalam kereta Puntawira terdapat daun ketum, bungkusan daun ketum.
Police also said that the authorities are searching for a second Thai man. The bodies of the 3 accident victims were sent to the Tanah Merah Hospital for post-mortem. The case is being probed under the Road Transport Act 1987 and the Poisons Act 1952.
Coming up, the all-new Cockroach Challenge takes the internet by storm. Details next. I'm Ras Adiba Radzi and you're still with us on 7Edition. On to the Sandakan parliamentary by-election. Early voting kicked off smoothly today with 75% of voters casting their ballots when the polling stations closed at 2 p.m. Voting began at 8 a.m. at 2 polling stations, the Sandakan District Police Headquarters Clubhouse and the Sandakan Marine Police Senior Officers Mess. There were a total of 270 security personnel who were eligible to vote. Election Commission EC Secretary Datuk Muhammad Ilyas Abu Bakar meanwhile urged candidates to abide by existing rules and regulations in the campaigns.
Dan yang paling penting sekarang adalah pemantauan pada kempen-kempen pilihan raya. Itu yang menjadi perhatian kepada SPR dan kita sangat-sangat mengharapkan semua calon-calon, parti-parti calon supaya mematuhi semua peraturan-peraturan pilihan raya yang telah ditetapkan. Dan jauhilah daripada melanggar peraturan oleh kerana sekiranya ada kes besok dia akan terdedah kepada pendakwaan di mahkamah nanti.
Vivian Wong Shiryi of DAP is involved in a 5-cornered fight for the seat held by her late father, Datuk Stephen Wong Tien Fat, who died on March 28th. The other contestants are Datuk Linda Sentaolin of Parti Bersatu Sabah PBS and 3 independents, former Sabah Parti Amanah Negara Amanah Chairman Hamzah Abdullah, businessman Chia Siu Yung and former administrative officer of the Sandakan Parliamentary Service Centre Sulaiman Samad. Polling for the by-election is set for May 11. Now let's hop on to our daily segment, Clickbait, where we take a look at what's trending and making rounds in the cyber world today. The internet is littered with weird challenges that easily becomes viral for no reason, just when you thought we're way past silly viral stunts like the infamous Tide Pod Challenge and the dangerous pass-out game. There comes another bizarre challenge called the Cockroach Challenge. If you happen to be one of those people who scurry away at even just the sight of a cockroach at the other end of the room, then this probably isn't for you. Here's the story. Facebook user Alex Aung began the now viral trend with a simple selfie showing the insect resting on his face. There was no explanation, no rationale behind the challenge, but the post garnered around 18,000 shares on Facebook. Multiple users began posting their own photos on the comments section to keep the challenge going. If you thought that was risky, this Facebook user took it up a notch by placing the cockroach in such close proximity to her mouth. One of the posts, one most of us would have imagined at the thought of a cockroach on your face, and potentially the most unsettling picture shows a girl with a cockroach inside her mouth. But other Facebook users have pointed out that the cockroach looks to be a fake toy roach. Then, as if one isn't enough, this photo of an actual horde of cockroaches swarming on a woman's face, which appears very calm. Another shocking photo has this woman acting very casual as she handles the cockroach, putting them on different parts of her face. Not only that, she even bravely makes funny faces at the camera. And of course, netizens were grossed out by this challenge, and many remarked that it was a ridiculous thing to do as cockroaches are not the cleanest creatures in the world. The 2 largest local airlines, AirAsia and Malaysia Airlines MAS, have pledged to provide over 700 additional domestic flights during this festive season. The additional flights would be available from May 23rd to June 16th to cover the Aidilfitri, Gawai Day and Keamatan Festival celebrations. Deputy Transport Minister Datuk Kamarudin Jaafar said that the government would not impose ceiling and floor prices for domestic flight tickets and would allow the airlines to set the prices based on their respective commercial decisions.
akan menambahkan 737 penerbangan daripada yang dipanggil scheduled flight ataupun penerbangan yang sudah pun tetap berkala 3,776 akan ditambah lagi 737 penerbangan setakat ini oleh kedua-dua syarikat penerbangan besar iaitu Malaysia Airlines Berhad.
In his response to a supplementary question on why flight ticket prices were higher during the festive seasons, even with prior bookings, Datuk Kamarudin explained that this was the government's move to ensure that the aviation services were able to accommodate to increased demand as well as to control the flight ticket prices.
Bekalan dan permintaan.
Turkish authorities have scrapped the result of a vote for Istanbul mayor that was lost by the candidate backed by the President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. In a move that knew opposition accusations of dictatorship, the High Election Board, YSK, ruled that a fresh Istanbul mayoral contest must be held on June 23rd. According to the YSK, the decision was taken as some presiding officers and polling staffs who are supposed to be civil servants, as per Turkish law, served during the elections. The YSK has decided to file a criminal complaint against the chairman and members of the District Election Council, election managers and other persons responsible for appointing polling staffs unlawfully. Turkey's main opposition, the Republican People's Party, CHP, whose candidate Ekrem İmamoğlu narrowly won the mayor's office, called the ruling a plain dictatorship. The European Parliament also said the decision to rerun the election would end the credibility of democratic elections in Turkey. Two Reuters journalists jailed in Myanmar after being convicted of breaking the Official Secrets Act have been freed after more than 500 days behind bars. Walon, aged 33, and 29-year-old Kiao So-u were convicted in September and sentenced to 7 years in jail in a case that raised questions about Myanmar's progress towards democracy. The case sparked a global outcry from diplomats and human rights advocates. The two reporters are among 6,520 prisoners released in an amnesty following another two mass amnesties last month. Before their arrest in December 2017, the duo had been working on an investigation into the killing of 10 Rohingya Muslim men and boys by security forces and Buddhist civilians in western Rakhine State during an army crackdown that began in August the same year. The report the two men authored, featuring testimony from perpetrators, witnesses and families of the victims, was awarded the Pulitzer Prize. It is customary in Myanmar for authorities to free prisoners around the time of the traditional New Year, which began on April 17. Already expected to be an event filled with iconic looks, the Met Gala 2019 saw yet another star-studded series of red carpet entries. This year, attendees put together some of the boldest outfits under the theme of Camp, Notes on Fashion, to celebrate the Metropolitan Museum of Art Costume Institute's launch of its new exhibition. Here are some of the best outfits of over-the-top expression of the biggest names of the world. Red carpet highlights include actress Zendaya, who turned a classic fairy tale into reality with an unforgettable performance. The Greatest Showman actor attended the star-studded event on Monday night, looking exactly like Disney's Cinderella in a bold blue gown designed by Tommy Hilfiger. Ezra Miller stunned the crowd with his face makeup and shining suit. Kylie and Kendall Jenner show off contrasting feather-assisted dresses. And Naomi Campbell making her presence known with a bold purple look. More showy outfits came from Jared Leto, who carried his own hat, and Winnie Harlow, who showed her expression of a modern-day goddess. While Serena Williams matched her bright dress with a pair of off-white Nike Air Force One low volt, and Tommy Hilfiger showed his American pride with a bedazzled USA flag suit. Some of music's finest also used the event to express their avant-garde fashion sense, with Lady Gaga leading the pack, literally accompanied by a cast. Katy Perry dressed as a chandelier. while Cardi B came in a dress that featured one of the longest gowns of the night. Travis Scott showed up in a military-inspired Dior outfit. Frank Ocean also kept things low-key with a Prada anorak, and Harry Styles showed up in a sheer piece with Alexandro Michel. Peter Parker returns in Spider-Man Far From Home, the next chapter of the Spider-Man Homecoming series. Our friendly neighborhood superhero decides to join his best friends Ned, MJ and the rest of the gang on a European vacation. The film is set to hit Malaysian theatres on July 2nd. I'm Ras Adiba Radzi. Thanks for watching and till meet again. Assalamualaikum.